Thank you, Randy and Amanda, and actually Eric, for giving us a reason to get together. And thank you for including us in this event. We're actually, the team back in Chicago is really excited that we're here today. And you know what, on top of that, thank you, Eric, for having this idea for this experiment that I'm getting to be a part of at Northwestern, which is a pretty unique thing. The longer I've been a part of Northwestern University Knight Lab, I didn't realize what I was signing up for 2 years ago, and this has been very cool. In 2012, I got the opportunity to join this really amazing team of faculty and some staff and a few students around at the time. And we've been kind of evolving it to what it is right now, but we're kind of in a taken approach of an always evolving, always iterating what we're doing at the Knight Lab. We like to think that right now we're in a position where we have two key products, technology and talent. And the technology that we deliver is primarily, especially the things that mostly people have heard about and what I'm going to talk about today, are tools, templates, and services, and they're intended to be used by professionals. And then one of the things that we like to say is that really what our primary product is the student and essentially the talent for hire that we're producing. So to give you a little bit of background, when I came in, we needed to kind of find ways to move forward with what we were doing at the lab. And so we structured our technology efforts around three key areas. We developed something called the Social Loop Project, which is led by our computer science faculty associated with the lab, Larry Beerbaum and Chris Hammond, which is technology that seeks to find meaning and utility in social media data. And so there's a variety of projects around that I'm happy to share with you guys offline. Then we developed two other areas around Reporter's Notebook, which is just kind of experimental ideas that are intended to kind of help in the reporting process, not necessarily reader-facing or user-facing. And then this idea of the Publisher's Toolbox, which is essentially just content publishing tools to make it a little bit easier to be a storyteller on the web. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about tools, templates, and services. I'm going to kind of quickly give you a couple of ideas of just a few of them. Timeline, which is our most popular tool, is about 2.5 years old. We're really excited. Then about a month and a half from now, we're going to be launching a V3 version of that. And it came out of a class that Zach Wise, one of our faculty members around the lab, had designed and kind of worked and developed as a utility for his classroom. And then we've built it out to being kind of a tool. It's extremely popular. And it's used by publishers of all sizes, storytellers of all kinds that go way beyond journalism. And for example, it was included in Denver Post 2012 Pulitzer Prize winning package on the Aurora Theater shooting. And to give you a little bit of an idea of the scope at which the usage for this is, I'm just gonna kind of give you an idea of just how big this is. In September, we had over 300,000 different storytellers create timelines, which generated over 100 million unique page views. So that's how popular this tool is. StoryMap, which is still relatively new. The next three, all of these are under a year old. StoryMap helps storytellers add narrative to maps. It helps you kind of easily tell a series of events across a region. And it works similarly like Timeline and allows you to kind of assign YouTube videos, Vimeo, Flickr, Facebook, tweets, Wikipedia pages, any bits of content across a map. We also have a version of it that allows you to kind of talk about a large image that we called Gigapixel, which I'm happy to tell you guys a little bit more about offline. And so then SoundCite is a little over a year old now, and it was designed by one of our student fellows in conjunction with Jeremy Gilbert, who is now at the Washington Post, but used to be one of the faculty members around the lab. And basically what it does is it's a tool that helps you create an embeddable in-text audio snippets. And what we really love about it is there's no external player, which encourages immersive and immersion in the paragraph. So it's been used by the New York Times, Washington Post, Texas Tribune, ProPublica. It works with all kinds of hosted audio, included SoundCloud. Juxtapose, which is our brand new tool that we've released right before the most recent ONA conference, is designed by one of our freshman student fellows. And it is just a kind of it's very new, it's very rough. I'm including this to kind of give you an idea of like something that's really raw that we put out there. This is like an alpha version of it. And this is a great example of, we've seen some kind of weird abuses of this tool. And so one of the questions that we ask ourselves around the lab is how do we design an interface to encourage good storytelling decisions? And to give you a little perspective on that, more often than not, we get a feature request for timeline where people want timeline to support hundreds and hundreds of instances across a timeline. And our answer to that is always no, because our focus is on storytelling, and part of storytelling is editing. So, to give you a little bit of an idea of like the team that's behind the lab right now, we have perfect gender parity between our staff and faculty, which is amazing. We have a disparity problem though. Our code writing fellows are primarily female. Our current and past in total are 80% female. Our current cohort's about 65% female. They write code, they write about people who write about code, and they're female. And I'm very proud of this point. They do a variety of different roles, from building technology and software to research and editorial and design research and all types of usability stuff, and they do some community development stuff for us. We sponsor research primarily through sponsoring several PhD students, which primary focus around there tends to be around NLP and semantic analysis kind of experiments, which are really exciting. We get really excited to kind of talk about that. We also host a couple of independent studies. We allow students to do full quarter internships with us or summer internships with us, and then we have the fellowship program throughout when they're doing their studies simultaneously. And so one of the things that we like to think about is that our fellows are directly connected to the professional tools that we develop. And they are learning shippable code as well as designing with usability in mind. Teaching designing web products for journalists, we think is more valuable than focusing on designing specifically for bespoke content. We think this is more valuable because it teaches them to think about the fact that Snowfall and other examples of enterprise or tentpole kind of story presentations, that is software too. And our readers have to use that. And so we try to introduce very on the fact that readers are going to be using the digital things that we're putting out. And the focus on usability of our editorial is key. And helping them into our product development kind of cycle helps them kind of understand that. So we have a variety of different ways that we feel that we're transforming education. We are also, the lab supports a collaborative class, which is a class that is half computer science students and half journalism students, that they build prototypes over a 10-week quarter. We also support an unclass in which students come in and they basically design their entire curricula around that, which that's an incredibly cool thing. I'm happy to kind of point you to it, but I also put the bit.ly address to that if anybody wants to look that up. Our student fellows host Open Lab once a week, which is 3 to 4 hours on Tuesday nights typically. And all we do for it is we buy pizza and we say, you know what, we want you to build a community of journalists sharing ideas and teaching each other how to work on things together and collaborate together. But we don't tell them what they have to work on. That's entirely self-driven by them. They host it themselves, they self-manage, and they kind of report back to us on any cool ideas that might be going on during that time. We also host a weekly brown bag lunch in which we deliberately do not bring in journalists. We are situated, we are housed at Medill. We get tons of journalists that come into Medill all the time. So our brown bag, we tend to bring in web makers. These are technologists that may or may not be involved around Chicago, that may or may not be involved in media products or journalism products, but they are fans. We bring in a lot of OpenGov people and a lot of kind of people that just kind of help them understand how the work that they're doing right now is connected with others. We like to talk about the fact that we are producing the journalism technology talent out there. The first 2 cohorts of student fellows have ended up at Vox, at Medium, at 538, at the New York Times, NPR, Washington Post, Texas Tribune, Chicago Tribune, Boston Globe, Financial Times, Guardian. We're very proud of our student fellows, and I am exactly on time.